Good morning, boys and girls. Happy Wednesday. So today we're going to be learning about subject-verb agreement. Yesterday and Monday we were learning about verbs and how we have to change them when they are telling different time or tense. So today, since we're going to be focusing on subject-verb agreement, when I mentioned yesterday about present tense and how sometimes on a present tense verb you have to add an S, okay? That's what we're going to be focusing on today. That when you're speaking in the present tense, sometimes you need an S depending on the subject. That is what subject-verb agreement is. When they make a connection and they flow throughout your writing. So let's review our basics. A subject tells who or what the sentence is about. Let me fix that here. So a subject tells us what? It's the main person or thing that the sentence is about. Okay, it's who or what the sentence is about. And we needed to agree with the verb. What is a verb? Because we learned that on Monday and Tuesday. What is a verb? It's the action word. So in today's lesson, I'm going to give you a strategy in order to figure out, do I need an S or not need an S? So here's the deal. If the subject is singular, okay, and singular means it's only one person or one thing, right? Then the verb equals, I'm going to put equals, the verb needs an S. Okay, what does that mean? Let's say I'm using Alea, right? That's one person. It's a name. Alea talks to her mom on the phone. I would not say Alea talk. The verb actually needs an S because the subject was singular. Okay? Now, if the subject is plural, what does that special word mean, plural? That mean if the subject is plural, or let me write it up here, more than one, that means it's a lot, it's many, it's 2, it's 3, it's 5, it's 500, right? Then our verb has no S. All right, super important. So what does that mean? That means if I'm talking about they is more than one. I wouldn't say they walks to the store. I would say they walk. My verb is not going to have an S. So this helps us decide with our present tense verbs whether they should have an S or no S. Okay? Now there's some special words that don't follow the rule, like I and you. Okay? They don't follow the rule because we're not going to say I, and since it's singular, walks to the store, you still say I walk. So these don't follow the rule. Alright? But what's really cool about subject agreement, verb agreement, and what you're going to notice today is that you can hear these mistakes as they're happening. If you read it carefully, you will notice that it is not making sense when you don't follow the rule. So let's talk about number 1, okay? And number 1, we said, don't follow the rule. I is my subject, so I'm going to circle that. I need to be circling my subject because I need to know what my subject is, and I need to know if it's singular, if it's plural, or maybe it's not following the rule. I already know it's not following the rule, so even though it's singular, I should not have an S. And I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm going to read both ways. That's how you should practice it. I strolls through the garden with my brother. I stroll through the garden with my brother. Yes, because it is singular, but I doesn't follow the rule, so the answer is stroll. Alright? So, the subject-verb agreement here is I stroll. Do they agree? Yes. Number 2, he is my subject, right? Now he, is that singular or plural? Well, he is only one person, so it's singular. It says my verb does need an S, so I'm going to check it. He studies the creature on the ground. He studied the creature on the ground. So that's kind of to double confirm what you already know. You want to double check it by reading it. Sometimes you might not think it sounds, or you're not too sure it sounds good both ways, but you always want to go back to the role, okay? So he studies, ending with an S, all right? So let's look at the next one. 2 worms blank in the brown dirt. Now I only want to know the subject, okay? The exact subject, the simple subject. What is that main word that's connecting with the verb? If you thought worms, you are correct. Now worms, is that singular or plural? Okay, it is plural. So what do you think the answer is? No S. If you said that, you're correct. So 2 worms wiggle. Now let's read and see. 2 worms wiggle in the brown dirt. Do my subject and verb agree? Yeah. Now let's check the non-example. 2 worms wiggles in the brown dirt. It's even hard to pronounce. Do you see that? Because they're both having an S, and when you say it's kind of like you're getting a little bit stuck there, right? It's not flowing like when you do follow the rule. Let's try one more guided. Number 4. A caterpillar blank on a tasty leaf. What exactly are they talking about in this sentence? Who or what is the subject? Yes, caterpillar. Now, next step, ask yourself, is it singular? Is it plural? I agree, caterpillar is only one, so here's my rule. It needs an S. Let's find out if that makes sense. A caterpillar munches on a tasty leaf. Do my subject and verb agree? I think so. Let's read the non-example. A caterpillar munch on a tasty leaf. It doesn't sound as good, and the reason it doesn't because it's not following the rule. So everything in writing has a rule. Our brain, after using so much communication from your toddler years to now, from me when I was young to an adult, our brain starts to recognize these rules without thinking about the rule. It's just the way we speak, right? But we're making connections to these rules so that when we write these things out, we make sure we're writing it correctly for our reader, all right? So you're going to continue on. Your independent practice is very similar to the top, but I do want to talk about the second part because these are verbs as well, but they're not action, okay? These are helping / linking verbs, okay? Why are they called helping and linking verbs? Because they do just that. They help or they link the subject to the rest of the sentence, okay? And they're mostly used when you're trying to describe or tell more about something. For example, look at number 1. An insect has 6 legs. So they're telling us about this insect. They're giving us information. So they needed a linking verb because here the subject is not necessarily doing an action, but we're giving some detail about it. We're describing the subject. So the same rule applies though, because look, this one has an S, this one does not have an S, right? So it's similar to this, except these words already have an S or don't have an S, and so you would think the same way. Well, if my subject is singular, insect, it's only one, right? Then my verb should have an S. Watch how it works. An insect has 6 legs. Does that make sense? Yes. What about an insect have 6 legs? It doesn't sound as good. Why? Because it's not following the subject-verb agreement rule. So this would be my answer here. Okay. Same thing with these. They don't follow the rule. Okay. there's one also that's not following the rule here is am and are. Okay, you blank afraid of spiders, but I blank am not. Okay, so let's talk about these and how they don't follow the rule. So these don't have S's, but what you want to do is you want to skip to the third reason. You want to read and make sure your subject and verb agree. So we have you. You am afraid of spiders, or you are afraid of spiders. This is where you're making connections to the real world. How do you speak? How do people speak? What have you heard before? How do you use these helping and linking verbs correctly? What do you think it is? Say it. Did you say are? If you did, you're correct. You are afraid of spiders, but I blank not. Now remember, I does not follow the rule, right? So normally it should have an S. One of these helping or linking should have an S, but since it doesn't follow the rule, it won't. And watch how it doesn't work. I is not, or I am not, right? So my subject here is I. I'm not following the rule. I'm not going to end in an S even though it's singular. So I'm choosing am because that subject and that verb agree. Now let's read it all together. You are afraid of spiders, but I am not. What do you think about that writing? Sounds good, doesn't it? You know why? Again, because the subject and the verb, they agree with each other. Alright, so let's look at what you're going to do today on your exit ticket. Okay, so this is going to be on Teams. Basically, you're just going to choose which present tense verb fills in the blank using your rule. So number 1, you have to read. You always read. 2, find the subject. 3, ask yourself, singular or plural. Remember the ones that don't follow the rules. So, I and you do not follow the rules, right? And you have your notes on the first page. And lastly, if you want to find out singular or plural, follow the rule, except for these, right? So you'll go back to your notes. You'll say, okay, singular, verb has to have an S. Plural, verb has no S, right? And after you follow the rule, you want to read it again. Why? Because now you can double check. Do my subject and my verb actually agree? Does it sound good here? Is it making a connection? And is it making my sentence flow? Alright? So use your strategies. I'll be posting an anchor chart for you. You can use that. You have your notes right here though. These are the basic rules that you need to know to be successful today. Make sure you're going back to your notes and always reading again to hear that correctiveness or that mistake in case you need to fix it. Good luck today, boys and girls. I'm pretty sure you'll get a really good grade. Make sure you've tested on an AR book this week. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.